Once upon a tabletop, some adventurers gather to face the elusive cold monster. Hey everyone, I'm Jonathan Rutledge, and this is episode 7 of Colonial Caria Lark's Landing, a 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons game being played at a local board game cafe called the Devil's Bench. After falling asleep on his watch, being turned to stone for a day, storming off into the night questioning his ranger abilities, and killing a massive axe-beaked bird, Shend, the Dwarven Ranger, returns to camp with its head as his trophy. The rest of the night passes uneventfully. In the morning, to save on space, Shend removes the beak from the bird, keeping only that. He then strikes up a conversation with his companions, saying that he doesn't think he should travel with them anymore. He explains that he's used to working alone, and that since he's joined up with them, he's almost died more times than he can count. Not to mention his skills seem to be degrading. The rest of the group assure him that he's doing fine, and that the reason that he keeps having these close encounters is because he sticks his neck out to protect the rest of them. They ask him to stay, promising to work harder to help keep him safe. He agrees, at least for now. They continue their journey to the northeast. As they travel across the grassy savanna, Stor, the goblin monk, Balazar, the dragonborn cleric, and Shend notice that the temperature is getting significantly warmer. However, the heat isn't coming from the weather, but from a hot, dry wind blowing from in front of them. As their day of travel draws to a close, they can see a desert off in the distance. They make camp, discussing what to do next. As Stor lights the fire, it suddenly goes out. They look around, trying to figure out what's going on. Acta, the tiefling warlock, offers to help and starts the fire with a wave of her hand. Balazar notices that he saw her casting a similar spell a moment earlier. He accuses her of snuffing the fire. Laughing, Acta admits to her little prank. They set their watches and go to sleep for the night. Having regained his confidence, Shend is on the final watch of the night. He has also set an alarm spell around their camp that will make a loud noise if anything harmful should cross it. In spite of his certainty that it had been a fluke when he'd fallen asleep on duty before, Shend once again falls asleep. Acta is awoken by a voice calling her name. She sits up and looks around, seeing that everyone else is asleep. Standing before her is a well-dressed humanoid figure with the head of a fox. In spite of the oddity of this creature, Acta does not seem surprised to see her. "Our mutual friend has sent me, Acta," the fox creature says. "He wishes for you to acquire for him the tooth of a giantkin." The fox creature then gives Acta a stone, saying that she can use it to contact her once she's acquired the object. Lastly, she produces a small pseudo-dragon and hands it to Acta, saying it's a gift from their mutual friend. The fox creature then casts a spell, opening a doorway in thin air which she proceeds to step through, vanishing entirely. With her new pseudo-dragon familiar, Acta goes and wakes up Shend. Shend is embarrassed that he fell asleep on duty again and asks her not to tell anyone. He does notice the pseudo-dragon, but he's not in a mind frame to question her answer that it just showed up. Acta returns to sleep, and Shend watches for the remainder of the night. He does notice that his alarm spell is missing, but he doesn't think twice about it as it's the first time he's ever cast it. In the morning, the rest of the group are curious about Acta's new familiar. However, all she tells them is that it just showed up. Not entirely satisfied, Stor does a sweep around the camp. He discovers the tracks of something with paws that walks on 2 feet. However, there are only a few of them, and they're right by Acta's bedroll. There's no sign of them entering or leaving the camp. As soon as Storm mentions them, Shend, embarrassed about falling asleep on duty, kicks them out. He says obviously they were nothing. The group decides to continue on their journey. However, they don't feel like facing the desert that's in their path. They decide instead to follow the edge of it. It appears to be on an angle northwest to southeast. They decide to follow it to the northwest, figuring that that will eventually lead them back to the coast, which they can follow back home. Their reasoning seems to have been accurate because partway through the day, the desert curves to the west. Even though they're following the edge of the desert, they're staying out in the savannah where it's cooler and there are more resources. In the evening, they make camp. As he's going to sleep, the ground below Balazar suddenly becomes very cold. He jumps up and tells the others what's going on. None of them can figure it out. Kordak, the half-orc fighter, starts digging in that location. However, the chill fades from the ground and he finds nothing. Everything seems to go back to normal, so they set their watches and go to sleep for the night. As they continue their travel in the morning, the desert curves to the north. They decide to continue heading straight west towards the coast. Fairly early in the day, the grass gets greener and the land turns to rolling hills. By the end of the day, they crest a ridge and see the ocean spreading out before them. As they make camp, this time the ground gets cold beneath Stor. Not only that, but he hears strange whispers around him. Balazar casts Detect Magic and determines that these are effects coming from Acta. They accuse her of pranking again, but she denies it. She's good at lying, but they see through her deception. Kordak and Shend, on the other hand, believe her in spite of the others' reassurances. Shend is convinced there is a cold monster around and wants to hunt it. However, since the cold and whispers are gone, they go to sleep for the night. In the morning, they continue out to the ocean where they find a stony beach. Relieved to see so much water after being so close to the hot desert, they decide to take half the day off. They spend their time swimming and playing on the beach. Then they follow the coastline to the south and west. The land alongside the beach transitions to the grassy savanna again, and the beach turns south. That night, when the cold patch and whispers target Shend, he and Kordak finally figure out that it's Acta. Her roaring with laughter as they dig into the ground is a dead giveaway. Late into the night, Balasar hears a thumping sound. He goes to wake up Shend, but the magical alarm goes off, waking everyone. They leap to their feet to see a pair of rhinos charging into camp. Thanks to their quick reactions, they're able to kill the beasts, bringing them crashing to the ground at Balasar's feet. Shend and Stor harvest the horns from the rhinos, and everyone goes back to sleep. By the end of their next day of travel, they can see jungle on the horizon and know that they're almost home. Having been found out, Acta's bedtime pranks have stopped. The next day, they follow the coast, which has transitioned into a sandy beach. It leads them west for a while. Partway through the day, Shend and Stor recognize a part of the beach that they'd come across before. This was back on the night that they had tracked the lizard creatures that had stolen one of their pigs. The beach curves to the south again, and late in the evening, they find themselves coming home. They do a quick sweep of the settlement, determining that nothing has gone awry. They report to those that they needed to, then head home. Stor's the first in the door, and he steps on a hunting trap hidden in the rushes. Luckily for him, the trap was set upside down. He recognizes it as his own and finds Shen's beside it. It was also set upside down so that it wouldn't cause any harm. They go to sleep, slightly concerned that someone knows where they live. In the morning, Shen takes the larger of his two rhino horns to Naldor. The general shopkeeper is interested in trading it, but he doesn't have anything that Shen wants. Shen decides to leave the horn with Naldor for credit at a later time. Meanwhile, back at home, a child knocks on the door. Stor opens it to find a child saying, "Hi, I'm looking for, someone called that bloody goblin." Stor acknowledges that this must be him. The child tells him that Naldor has the loot he was looking for. Stor goes and trades his rhino horn for the loot. The group decide that they want to go and check out the Singing Stone again. This is made easier for them because a trail has been cleared out to the stone. They're happy to see preparations for the mine underway. While at the stone, Stor accidentally sends some radiant magic at it. Having never cast any magic before, he rushes back to the settlement to ask the wizard about it. Fairy the wizard isn't able to tell him anything about his abilities other than it seems to be coming from inside him. The wizard's also slightly concerned that he might explode and slams the door in his face. Stor returns to the stone with the others. In spite of lots of investigation, some digging, and even some magic, all they're able to determine is that the stone absorbs magic and makes sound. They are very curious about it. However, they also know that whoever was out by the stony area where they found the gravestones was there again, retrieving their hunting traps. They decide to head out there again. They camp in the jungle and arrive mid-afternoon. They search around but find nothing. Shen can't even find traces of where he pegged his hunting trap. Balazar casts Detect Magic. He does find some magic, but it's coming from Kordak's pocket. Kordak pulls out the ring, which is apparently magical. He lets Stor examine it. The goblin slides it onto his finger and the ring vanishes. He can still feel it there and takes it off, making it visible again. They determine that someone either made a mistake while enchanting it, or that the enchantment was intended to hide a valuable ring. Having found no more information, they camp for the night. Once again on Balasar's watch, something comes out of the night. It's a ferocious bear-like creature with the head of an owl. It doesn't immediately attack, so most of the group hesitates. However, Kordak has heard of these creatures before and knows that they're vicious. He leads the charge. The owlbear does take a hefty chunk out of him, but the adventurers put it down. They collect some of its feathers and go back to sleep. And that's where this week's session comes to an end. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and leave a comment down below letting me know what you think. If you want to support the channel, there's a link for that down in the description, as well as a link to my website where you can buy the chainmail I make. And that's it for today. Check back next week to find out what happens next, once upon a tabletop.